So let's start our session. So I hope it is a 6th class. Am I right? Yeah. So now I'll start the session. So I'll enter into the topic directly. So the topic is today that units and dimensions. Our topic is what? Units and dimensions. So this is our topic. Units and dimensions is our topic. So when you are talking about units and dimensions chapter, first of all, we supposed to learn about units. Later, separately we discuss about dimensions. Understands? Separately we learn about units as well as dimensions separately. Now the thing is here, you know the units provided are units we will given for physical quantities. Understand? We will give or we will use units for physical quantities. So to study the physical quantities, first of all you have to know how many types of quantities you have. That point you should supposed to learn. Got my point? What is the first point you should know, the children? The first point is how many physical quantities we have. That point we have to learn first. Let's first talk about quantity. What is that? Quantity. What is mean by quantity? So quantity is referring you how much amount, how much cost, how much it is. So that part is indicating the quantity. For example, when you are talking about any mass, you will say as how much mass. Here how much, the term or statement representing you a quantity. How many stars are present? How many stars are present? That how many again stands for a quantity. How much length of the cloth? That how much part is telling you or state you a quantity. But this quantity have two types. How many types we have? Two types. One is uncountable quantity, uncountable quantity, and other one is countable quantity. Countable quantity. Understand? Uncountable quantity, and the next term is countable quantity. See here, what is this uncountable quantity? What is this countable quantity? Let us learn. So here, when you are talking about uncountable quantity, so here we do not have any number, or we don't have any quantity to measure. We don't have any instrument. That kind of quantity is called uncountable quantity. For example, human emotions. Human emotions, to measure human emotions, is there any instrument is we have? We don't have no instrument to measure human emotions. For example, angriness, or else affection between mother and child. The affection between mother and child, how can you measure? We don't have any measurement. We don't have any instrument to measure the affection between mother and child. But the affection is physical. Affection is a quantity. Understand? Affection is a quantity because I am having, we will say sometimes, I am having lot of affection on my mother. That is the way we will generally state. But how much you have, we don't know. How much quantity we don't know. That kind of quantities are known uncountable quantity. Example for uncountable quantities, what? Human emotions. Human emotions. Human emotions is the best example for what? Uncountable quantity. Angriness, greediness. Understand? Next, faith. Faith also is an uncountable quantity. How much faith you have. we don't know. We're not having any measurement to any no instrument to measure faith, isn't it? No instrument measured love. No instrument measured for hungriness. Both we don't have any instrument to measure. So such kind of quantities are called uncountable quantities. Example, human emotions. I hope you have got clarity what is uncountable quantity. Now let us talk about countable quantity. Let me talk about countable quantity. So what is this countable quantity? The countable quantity means any quantity which can be measurable. Understand? Any quantity which can be measurable are known as countable quantity. This countable quantity also known as physical quantity. What is that? Physical quantity. The quantity which can be measurable known as countable quantity. That is also known as what? Physical quantity. So tell me some example for physical quantity. So here the example for physical quantities are length, time, mass, force, energy. These all are comes under physical quantity because we have a instrument to measure these physical quantities, or else we have a formulas to measure these physical quantities. Such kind of quantities are known as physical quantity or else countable quantity. But this physical quantity further divided as three types. Understand? These physical quantities further divided how many types? Three types. So I hope you are writing these points what I am explaining. I am telling very slowly. Please note it down in your book clearly. So our chapter name is what? Units and dimensions. And in that I discussed that quantity. What is mean by quantity? So how can you define here the quantity? You can define the quantity as how much amount, how much value, how much it is stating as quantity. But this quantity has two types. What are they? Uncountable quantity. Next one is what? Countable quantity. So what is mean by here? Uncountable quantity. The uncountable quantity is nothing but there is no instrument to measure the quantities known as uncountable quantities. Examples are what? Human emotions, affection, greediness, angriness, hungriness, faith. These all comes under uncountable quantity. And coming to the countable quantity, the countable quantity also known as physical quantity. So how can you define this countable quantity? Any quantity which can be measurable are known as countable quantity or physical quantity. Examples are what? Length, time, mass, force, energy, momentum, and so on is known as example for what? Countable quantity. I hope it is clear for you. Now next, let us discuss further classification of these countable quantities or physical quantities. I am taking out here. I am cleaning this. Now again we further divided the physical quantities into three types. So here physical quantity. Physical quantity further divides how many types? Three types. So first type is fundamental quantity. Fundamental. What is that? Fundamental quantity. Fundamental quantity. Next one is derived quantity. Derived quantities. Third one is supplementary Supplementary quantities. These are the three types of quantities we have generally classified these physical quantities. And now let me talk about first fundamental quantity. So what is mean by fundamental quantity, students? The fundamental quantity means any quantity does not depend upon any other quantity. Understand that? How can you define as a fundamental quantity, students? The quantity is not depend upon any other quantity. The physical quantity does not depend upon any other quantity is known as fundamental quantity. Here we have 7 fundamental quantities. How many we have? 7 fundamental quantities we have. Those are, I will write here 7 fundamental quantity. First one is mass. What is that? Mama, mass. First one is what? Mama, mass. Second one is mass length. What is that? Second quantity is what? Length. The third quantity, time. Time. The third quantity is what? Time. And the fourth quantity, you can write as temperature. 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 The fifth quantity is what you write? Current. Electric current. It will give shocks, electric current. If you touch this, what happened? You will get electric shock. That is called electric current. And the sixth one, most important, is amount of substance. Amount of substance. So, amount of substance also one physical quantity. And the seventh most one is luminous intensity. Luminous intensity. This is your 7 physical quantities are known as fundamental quantities. Only 7 we have, not much more. How many quantities we have? Fundamental quantities. In total science world, how many fundamental quantities we have? Only 7. Those are nothing but mass, length, time, temperature, electric current, amount of substance, and luminous intensity. Understood, children? Yeah, you will got it. You got it now. Next, these quantities does not depend upon any other quantities. Understand? Mass cannot depend upon any quantity. Time is also do not depend upon any other quantity. Even luminous intensity also does not depend upon any other quantity. Look at here. This mass in our daily life, all substance has mass. That point is that. And next, length. To measure anything we have, isn't it? For example, cloth has length. The path has length, isn't it? The dimensions of the room has length. Everywhere length involves. Similar way, time. So when time goes on passing, days goes on completing. Yes or no? When time goes on passing, days goes on completing, years goes on getting into the history, isn't it? So that way we have the time. Similarly, temperature. So temperature represents as a hotness, not hot, that is hotness. Understand? The temperature represents the hotness, the degree of hotness. Okay. Next, electric current. We'll get electric shock with that. So that kind of quantity is known as electric current. Amount of substance. Generally, this part is used for concentration. For example, generally in our daily life you are using, we will drink milk. How much concentration of the milk? They mix water, isn't it? When you mix the water, the concentration of the milk will reduce. Even sometimes juices, we will drink juices. So when you are taking from directly from the fruit, that concentration of the juice is more. But to reduce the concentration, what will mix? You will mix the water, isn't it? So when you mix the water, the concentration of the juice will decrease, isn't it? So that to explain that, we'll use this amount of substance as a physical quantity. Understand? Next, what about luminous intensity? So this luminous intensity is related to light. So intensity of the light, how much intensity? Sometimes we will see brighter objects, sometimes we will see the dim object, sometimes we see very brighter. So to explain that, we will use this luminous intensity as a physical quantity. I hope you have understood where we will use these physical quantities. Now coming to the another type of physical quantities, those are nothing but derived quantities. Children, I said, look at here, one logic here. The logic is fundamental quantities means not depend upon any other quantities are known as fundamental. Now apply logic here. What is mean by derived quantity? The derived quantity means the quantities does not depend upon any other. The quantities depend upon the fundamental quantities are known as derived quantity. I hope you understood this. Once again I am repeating, the derived quantity means the quantity depends on fundamental quantity are known as derived quantity. For example, velocity. So here I will give an example here. The example is velocity. Generally, velocity means distance or displacement by time. Displacement by time. Displacement by time. Here, displacement means the length. So here, length. Displacement is length. Time is a something like. So, but here, displacement is nothing but length, right? So, length is a what kind of quantity? Yeah, fundamental quantity. Time is what type of quantity? Yes, you are right. Is time also what kind of quantity? Fundamental quantity. Since this velocity is what type of quantity now? Tell me, derived quantity. You know one thing, the area and volume also derived quantities. Can I say how it is? Look at here. Area, let me take out this. I am taking out this. Later I will discuss this part. So look at here, area. So when you are talking about area, so area is nothing but mathematical formula is length into breadth, isn't it? When you are talking about area as length into breadth, so length is nothing but what kind of quantity? Yes, it is a fundamental quantity. Even breadth is also nothing but length only, since that is also a fundamental quantity. So area is what kind of quantity here? Derived quantity. Understand, children? So one more time, let me take volume. So when you are talking about volume, so tell me the children, volume formula. Yes, so the volume formula is length into breadth into height. Length into breadth into height. So length is nothing but fundamental quantity. Breadth also nothing but length only, since that is also fundamental quantity. Even height also length only. We will measure in meters. So that is also what kind of quantity? A fundamental quantity. Since this volume also fundamental quantity. I hope you have understood this. In coming to the one more, let me give one more example for this derived quantity. So the one more example is force. Force nothing but mass into acceleration. Force nothing but what? Mass into acceleration. So it is not ma, it is ma. It's not ma. quantity is ma, mass into acceleration. So here mass is what kind of quantity? So you know mass is a fundamental quantity. Since this force is depends upon the fundamental quantity, so this is what kind of quantity? Derived quantity. Got my point? So this is where we can explain about fundamental quantity, derived quantities. So can I say one logic here? The logic is you can treat these fundamental quantities as alphabets. Understand? So how many alphabets we have? That is 26. That is fixed. But how many words you have? It is not fixed. It is many. Many means infinite number of words we have. But how many alphabets we have? Just 26. Likewise, here fundamental quantities how many? Only 7. But derived quantities how many? Many. Infinite quantities, infinite physical quantities, infinite derived quantities we can make with these 7 fundamental quantities. So I hope you have understood this. What is fundamental quantity? What is derived quantities? So better write down here. I'll wait for 30 seconds. Make it quickly. Yeah, next one more physical quantity. One more physical quantity is supplementary quantity. Next quantity is, I am taking this supplementary quantity. So next one is supplementary quantities. Third and most important, what is that? Supplementary quantities. So what is this supplementary quantities? Again we have supplementary quantities are two types. First one is plane angle, and the second one is solid angle. What is the second one is? Solid angle. Solid angle and plane angle, two are called supplementary angles. How can you define this plane angle? Plane angle is the angle between the two planes or two lines or two surfaces. Understand? The plane angle is the angle between two surfaces, two rays or two lines or two surfaces. For example, this is a one plane and this is a another plane. This is a another plane. So this angle is known as what? Plane angle. Understand? This is one plane and this is one more plane. The angle between them is called plane angle. Or else this is one line, this is one line and this is one more line. This angle is known as what? Plane angle. But what is the units for this plane angle? The units for plane angle we'll discuss in next class, not now. I will not explain. So here the plane angle and this plane angle is what kind of quantity? Supplementary quantity. How can you define this plane angle? The angle between two planes, angle between two surfaces, angle between two lines is known as plane angle. And next, how can you define this solid angle? You will define the solid angle as, observe the diagram here carefully. This is a three-dimensional object. Imagine this is a three-dimensional object. I hope it is visible clearly. This is a three-dimensional object. So it is like a cuboid. When this is a cuboid, so this is you can take x-axis, this you can take y-axis, this you can take x-axis. This combined angle at this corner or combined angle of at this corner or combined angle of this corner is known as what? Solid angle. What is that? Solid angle. This is the way we can explain solid angle and plane angle. Understand? So better note down here. Better take this. What is that here? Solid angle. Solid angle is the angle at the corners of the any three-dimensional object. So it is known as solid angle. Now let us give the units also. Now I am giving the units. We will discuss later, but now also we will discuss here. Here the angle for plane angle units are radian. Plane angle units are radian. Here solid angle units are steradian. Plane angle units are steradian. We represent with omega. This is represented with theta. This is represented with what? Omega. So this is what your today's topic. So understand. I hope you have understood this. So I think it is clear. I am taking this topic once again. I am taking this. Yes, I am taking this. So once again, recall what we have learned today. The very first one is we discussed about quantity and types of quantities. First type is what? Fundamental quantity. Mental quantity. It is what? Fundamental quantity. Second one is derived quantity. Third one is supplementary quantity. Supplementary quantity. Here, fundamental, how many are there? You know, 7. So, mass, length, time, temperature, luminous intensity, next one is amount of substance. Next, luminous intensity, amount of substance, temperature, current. I think this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 quantities. So that is about fundamental quantity. Fundamental quantity means not depend upon any other physical quantity. So derived quantity means what? The quantities depend upon fundamental quantities are known as derived quantity. Example, you can give anything. Velocity, acceleration, force, energy, time, not time, momentum, angular momentum, torque, moment of inertia. These all we can take as derived quantities. Next one is supplementary quantities. We have two types. One is plane angle. Second one is what? Solid angle. See here, so this is the way we have many types of the physical quantities. But to measure these physical quantities, what we required what? Units. Understand? To measure what we required units. This, with that help of the units, we'll measure these physical quantities. Understand? So about these units we will learn in the next class. So I hope you have understood what is the physical quantities, how many types of the physical quantities, and everything. So about to measure these physical quantities, what we'll use here? We'll use units. This part we'll learn in the next class. Got my point? So can I give one example for unit? The unit for mass is kg. So kg is a unit. But how can you define unit? Everything we'll learn in next class. So I hope you understood. I'll stop for today. Bye bye.